Hi, BookTube. Welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and today I wanted to talk about a genre slash trope that I have very mixed feelings on, and that's the romance. Now, I am a firm believer in defending YA authors who constantly have romance in their books, and and I'm not as bothered when authors give a romantic partner to every character. But I do get why people don't like that because not everybody wants to have a romance. Not everybody is interested in someone. Not everybody wants a romantic story. Um, and I think it comes from the fact my not minding it as much in being liking it at times is because I've always been a firm believer of if there's something like a love triangle, I want all the characters to be happy. Unless the character is just a horrible human being and doesn't deserve to be happy. Now there's oftentimes there are characters like take for instance Riley from Buffy, the TV show. I like his character and I want his character to be happy. But I know not everybody likes him. Especially after what happens in season 5 with his character, his arc. People have a problem with him. But I still want him to be happy. I am still a firm believer in wanting all my characters to be happy. So that's why I'm actually kind of cool with seeing characters that, having someone in the end, still having someone. And, I know that I haven't picked, I stopped reading Sarah J. Maas, but I did read enough of ACOTAR to know that one of my favorite characters, I can't even remember their names, the redheaded guy, and Freya's sister, one of her sisters, he realized they're mated together, and I get that. I get people's problem with that kind of thing, and because it's like you have no control over who you want to be with. It's a little like it's not romantic, but I still kind of rooted for that couple. I kind of preferred them, and I also was one of those people who didn't like, oh, each of the sisters gets with the 3 brothers, even though they're not actually biological brothers. It was still, I still thought it was kind of weird and convenient that, of course, they all end up with the boys. It's a little big group thing, and I didn't, I wanted her to kind of be with the redhead guy, whose name I do not remember still. And I don't think that's the case. So that was one of these, that was a situation where I was kind of happy that these characters end up hoped these characters that he would at least have someone, even if he couldn't be, even if the girl didn't choose him. But and I also get the message that it's saying, oh, she had a choice. Just because she's mated to this one guy does not mean she has to choose to be with him. Which, for the sake of the people who have a problem with mates, when people being mated together, fated, meant to be, it's kind of, I definitely get that it would be a nice idea to know that she is refusing to be with that guy just because, oh, we're meant to be. We're mates now, and, the idea of, I don't have to be with you because I'm not interested in you in that way. And I think some of the things, by the sound of it, he might have been a little too pushy anyway with her. But I haven't read it, so I don't know. I'm just going by what the impression I've got from what people have said. So yeah, I always want all the characters to have someone in the end to be happy because I don't want anyone to be lonely. Especially if someone felt, really hard for a person and then got rejected because the person was actually really nice about it, and that makes it worse. And I feel like that can make it potentially worse because it's like, if they were mean about it, then eventually you could, no longer like them. But if they were nice, then you can't fairly get mad at them, even though you probably would still get mad at them. It wouldn't be fair because they were actually really sweet about it and kind about it. It's easier when people are mean, which that's not how it works. A lot of time, you're not always going to get someone who's going to be mean about it when they reject you. But, and there's certain romance tropes that I do like. But, with that being said, I also don't like when the romance takes over the plot in a book. But here's where it gets a little confusing, because even though I don't like it in books where the romance dominates the plot, I love rom-coms. And I enjoy watching romances on TV because there's just certain stories that I would rather watch on TV because I can get the actors and not hearing my own stupid voice when I read. I can get the actors and I can get the sound effects, and also you're distracted by music when it comes to the intimate scenes. Because I don't like watching those when I can hear the noises that the characters are making while they're being intimate. I don't like that. I would rather have music on in the background. But yeah, it's a genre that, like, I don't entirely dismiss. It's not a genre that I'm entirely dismissing because I do like it. And like I said, I will defend YA when they say, oh, everyone has to put YA in the, romance in their YA novels. But at the same time, I have moved on from it, and I'm more focused on other plots, other aspects. But when it comes in, I like it, because what's nice is when it doesn't take over the plot, but it happens, and it makes it, for me personally, makes it all the more sweet and beautiful when it happens and you don't expect it, or you're hoping for it, but it hasn't happened yet. It makes it all the more sweet when it does happen, and that's what I prefer when I don't like. If it's a story where it's taken over the plot, unless of course it's like the kind of story where it's one of my favorite types of romances, which is hate to love, or at least dislike to love, where the characters don't like each other and spend the whole time butting heads, but you can see their attraction to each other. Anthony and Kate. I am so bad at that. I try to do that whole, where you cough something when you're really saying something. I always try to do that to be funny, and it doesn't work. It probably just seems stupid. But so yeah, Anthony and Kate is a great example of this, where you just get so frustrated. Now, what was nice about it is also only a handful of episodes. I really appreciate it doesn't drag out, because sometimes when there's like 22 episodes and most of them consist of them dragging it out, like for instance on the new Charmed, it took forever for Macy and Harry to get together. That was driving me nuts. And after a while, I was like, I mean, it wasn't as bad as it wasn't as annoying like, let's say, Ross and Rachel drama, because they weren't toxic, but it still was like, okay, just get together already. Which, that's the thing. That's why these writers will do these kinds of relationships and drag them out, because they will keep people watching, because people want to see this couple get together. As far, when it comes to TV, you want to see it happen, so they just drag it out because it will keep you watching. Even after a while, you get bored and get frustrated because they're not together, But hopefully, there's a lot, often good, there's other stuff going on at the same time, which makes it a little bit easier to swallow. And that's why my favorite couples for us friends is Monica and Chandler. I love Monica and Chandler. But yeah, one of my favorite tropes is the dislike to love or hate to love. Those are always fun, because just watching the couple and you that there's something between them, and it's just driving crazy. Like, you're like, get together already. But with that being said, sometimes after a while it's like, I'm like, okay, I want to watch something else. I want to talk about something else. I don't want to hear about your drama, because, you like this person, but you're afraid to admit how you feel about them. It just, after a while, it's just like, okay, what about the other stuff? Like, I don't want to, when there's a show like Gotham or a book, I don't want to, so this also kind of is about TV shows. I don't want to just talk about the couples. I don't want to talk about the romance. I don't just want to talk about, but I also I don't want to just talk about only a few characters, either. I want to talk about other characters. I don't want to talk about the whole plot itself and the drama itself. And also, it stems from the frustration of wanting to write some other plot points if I ever became an author. But then romance is the easiest plot to write. Or not easy, but it's like, I can write that a little more easily than some of the other stuff. But I want to write the other stuff because I don't want to write romance. I want to write fantasy. I want to write, if I ever did. Um, and also, you know, the funny thing is, a lot of times in stories, whether it's books or movies or TV shows, sometimes I'm more interested in the plots that aren't romance, but they're love stories, but a different kind of love story. My favorite love stories are, which you actually have this in The Mandalorian, the kind of story where you have this male character who, you know, he's kind of a loner, a lone wolf, you know, more like he just doesn't, um, he's tough or hard or just doesn't get emotional that often or acts like he doesn't care. But then all of a sudden, like, this child comes into his life, which is basically the Mandalorian plot, and it softens his heart. Especially, you know, especially when it's a girl child, which in the case of Mandalorian is a little boy. I think he's supposed to be, Grogu was supposed to be a boy. It's such a sweet love story because you don't get, you know, I prefer those because those are more touching to me than romance sometimes. Um, like, like in All Dogs Go to Heaven, you know, the sequel to that movie had a, which again, I know I'm talking more about books and more about movies and TV shows, but I could talk about that more easily than books, surprisingly, just a little bit more easily. You know, All Dogs Go to Heaven, we had the second one had a romance in it, but I was like, I don't really care. It's all cheesy and stuff, so I don't really care. But what I liked is the Charlie Barker's relationship with the little girl. I can't remember her name, and Anne Marie, which was so touching and so sweet, and I loved it, and just like, you know, it was one of my favorite. You know, the best aspect, the heart of the story, in the case of the first movie. Um, I wish I had more book related examples, but I haven't found any. I don't have any off the top of my head. Um, yeah, I'm looking at my books and I can't. I'm trying to think of those kinds of relationships at the top of my head, but I don't have any at the moment. But I would like to come up with some one day. You know, I would like to list, like, do a list of those kinds of relationships. I think would be, you know, because like I said, I feel guilty that most of the time it's easier for me to come up with examples for these kinds of things more in movies and TV shows than books. Because I'm a reader as much as I guess, I got a good example. Ciri and, which, I mean, although this is not a TV show, but Ciri and Geralt's relationship is really sweet, you know. He's the cantankerous father figure, and she's this little feisty little girl who gets into trouble constantly, and she's chosen, so she's chased by everybody, and he really starts to care about her, see her as his daughter. And I like how they're both like, he's blonde and she's blonde, so she looks like she could be his daughter. Um, but yeah, that's at least one example I can come up with. I'm trying to think of another. Is there any? I don't think there's anything in Game of Thrones really that is an example of that. But yeah, I need to do that. I need to, when I'm reading books, I need to go through my, you know, as I'm reading, I need to find that. Like I said, if I ever wrote a novel, that's one of my core relationships I would want to write, is a relationship between a male character who becomes like a father figure to a child that isn't his biological child, but he becomes attached to her. So, and so that's, so like I said, my frustration, I always worry that people will misunderstand, and not understand that my relationship with romance is very complicated, and just because I like romance in movies, and I do still like it, but I don't always prioritize it in books. I don't want it to be the top priority. But that doesn't mean I'm totally against it. It doesn't mean I'm totally dismissing it either. I like it when it's in the story, but I don't want it to take over the story either. You know, and like, just because I read books like, you know, like Jane Eyre, which has a romance at its center, you know, like, there's a lot of classics I like, a lot of classics that are that have a romance in the story, and I do like that, but it depends. So I pick I don't want people to recommend it to me. I want to figure out on my own if I'm gonna like it, if I'm gonna be cool with it. Because, like I said, it depends on the story. Like, the romance is dependent on the type of romance and how much is it in the story. And like I said, sometimes I just prefer watching it on screen. Like, I don't read those contemporary fluffy romances at all. But there might be an exception when it comes to historical fiction. Like, I didn't enjoy Fool's Paradise, which was a book that Terry recommended and wanted me to read years ago, and I enjoyed it, where Queen Elizabeth's goddaughter, she runs out on marriage and crosses paths with the jester who entertained at her bridal shower or engagement party or whatever, and he lets her come with him, and she's disguised as his apprentice, and they fall in love. I did like that. So I sometimes like it. I also like the Rosie Project, which was really cute, which that's contemporary. I had a fun time with that one, but I haven't continued with because it is, I believe, just a trilogy. I think there were 2 more books in that. And I appreciate that the main character, our male lead, was on the spectrum, and I appreciate there are other stories that are coming out in that romance, contemporary fluffy romance stories where that character is autistic, which that's what I want to see in a fan. I want to see a fantasy main character would be considered autistic by today's standards, by our world standards. I would love to see that. I don't know how they would do it. I mean, maybe I could try to portray it if I ever decide to write a novel. But I definitely, until then, I'm hoping to see it in fantasy. But it has to also be a story that I'm interested in. That's the other thing, just because it has representation, I like that as representation. I like that. I appreciate that. I think it's good. I think it's important to have representation. I'm glad it exists, that it's there, that it's in these books. But I'm very much into a story. I want a story that I like, that I enjoy. A story that, that I can get emotionally invested in. Which I don't know why. We started this talking about romance and now I'm getting off topic. And I'm trying to think of other romances that I did like. I'm just very particular about romance. If I was picky about anything, it would be the romance genre. I need to be invested in the romance, but I don't want it to take over the plot. I don't want it to be the main plot point. Like, at least the secondary plot point. But not, like, the first main plot point. But when it's a TV show like Bridgerton, I love Bridgerton. I'm enjoying Bridgerton. But I'm also not going to read the books. I have no interest in the books. I mean, sometimes when people talk about the books, I think about it for, like, a second, but then I realize, I don't want to read it. I don't have any interest. I mean, I sure could get through this quickly. Like, if I got them from the library, for instance, then maybe, one day, never say never. Maybe if I saw them at the library, then maybe I would pick them up. I mean, I haven't yet. But yeah, John, like I said, romance is mostly something I would rather just watch on screen. I would just rather see the actors perform the intimate scenes, show their feelings instead of reading about it. Instead of getting told that this is what's going on, instead of, like, trying to use my own imagination. I want the actors to see these actors. Because TV and movies were my first love. But is there, like, a genre? Am I the only one who has, like, a genre, or, that? Am I the only one that has a genre that has mixed feelings, where sometimes I need to see it in a different form? I prefer to watch it take it in a different format. And that sometimes if I do read it, or, like, am I the only person who, like, that I'm particular about what I read, when it comes to that. But if I try to read that genre, I'm very particular. Am I the only one who's particular about it? Like, can be a little picky about that one genre? Love to hear if I'm the only one or not. If any of you guys feel that way about certain genres. And I guess that's all I'm going to say about that, because I don't know what else to say. It's just something that I wanted to talk about briefly. Like something I just think about every so often, because I feel like I worry that people are not going to understand that. And I just don't, they're going to I worry that people automatically seem, oh, you love rom-com, so why don't you like romance? Like my mom, has mentioned to me the books, and, she's like, oh, love the books. Like, I think she's saying, oh, you see the books, do you want them? You want to read the books? It's like, no. I'm perfectly content with the show. Even if there are probably some differences, but I'm content with the show. Now, like, obviously something like Game of Thrones, I'm gonna read the books. I wanted to read the books. And now that the show's over and out of the way, I'm gonna read the books. I'm back to reading them, so anyway, that's all I want to say about that. Like I said, if any of you feel that way about certain genres, feel free to share in the comments below. And if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Click subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell notification below if you want to be notified when I post new videos. And I will talk to y'all later. And bye.